I would look at people based upon what they did on the outward and say, oh man, you really tripping, like you know, you having sex, like out here guys on the basketball team. Meanwhile, I'm watching porn.
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't see my stuff, but I see yours, or I hear about yours.
Right.
So I justify, you know, based upon what you tell me, but I'm hiding my stuff. It's religious, man. You know what I'm saying? But I think that came from the effects of like keeping this image up as a PK. Oh, like Austin's like preacher boy. You know what I'm saying? Like Rev. Like, all right, you know, it's time to pray. You know, like go ahead.
Let's go. Yeah.
Go ahead. You know
how did that make you feel? Like the pressure.
I was
like,
I would lie though if I said that I didn't like it sometimes, because like when you're religious, you like to like feel like, oh, like I know scripture, you know, like I know this about God, like me and God like this, like, but you like you don't even know there's like who John is in the Bible.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's that religious pride that you don't even realize you're in it because you're blind to it.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Walk With You podcast. My name is Drew Muzan. Joining alongside my special guest today, we in Egypt today.
down south.
What's good with you?
What's good, baby?
It's Pastor Austin Smith. Thank you for joining me, man.
Appreciate you having me, man.
So as you guys can see from the title, we're sitting with a preacher's kid.
Yeah.
A PK today,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So, if you would just get into a little bit about yourself, who you are, tell the people.
Yeah, man. My name is Austin Smith. Let's see. I'm a son. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a creative, full-time graphic designer. As you said, I'm stepping into pastoring, about to do a church plant.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Life is busy for me.
Very busy.
Stays very busy, but it's exactly what I asked for. So
right.
I don't have any complaints, man. I don't have any complaints.
So, talking to me a little bit about that though. How are you feeling about to step into pastor mode?
It's crazy, man, because it's the very thing I said I wasn't going to do.
Mm-hmm. That's how it happens.
You know what I'm saying? You be like, God, I'm not doing this, and this, and then God be like, okay, so we're going to do this, and this. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's been interesting, man. It's been an interesting process. My desire was never to have my own church. My desire was to just help people to see who Jesus is. And out of that came like mentorship. Out of that came doing campus ministry. And essentially, like, even in my days when I was a student director at a church, like, I was essentially like their youth pastor, but I just never like called it that. It was just like, yo, I want people to know who Jesus is and to see why he loves them. Like, you know, just like the basic essentials, you know what I'm saying? And then just to walk and do life with them.
Right.
And out of that, it's been like, feels like I've been pastoring people in a sense already. Of course, I'm not saying like I'm there yet, you know what I'm saying? But just, it's been very like organic how it's been built, you know what I'm saying? So that's been the cool part. And even with like getting ready for a church plant, man, like the way God's brought our team together, like it's just been unusual. It's been unusual. Like there's no way we can get the credit for this.
Right.
So that's it's dope, man. It's dope. Right. So yeah.
So also too, I want to talk a little bit about your graphic design journey as well.
Yeah.
So if you could tell the people a little bit about that testimony, I think that would bless people as well.
I'm trying to think where to start. So I graduated in 2013 from Winthrop University. I started off as a graphic design major because my love for it came in high school. So like in my high school, they had like technology courses where you could be like you could do career courses. So I chose like graphic design because I always loved drawing, but somebody introduced me to like doing it digitally. So I was like, yo, like you can draw on the computer. And from there kind of took off. I was like, whoa, like, you know what I'm saying? But this was when it was Macintosh, like the big like bubble joints.
Oh, with the different colors.
Yeah. So then they started expanding towards like the older but newer iMacs. So yeah, I went to school for graphic design freshman year and I hated it. I hated it. One, because I didn't have the discipline at the time.
Yeah,
two, I was a freshman.
Y'all, it's discipline.
The discipline is crazy because you have to know like the true like fundamentals. Like I was just so raw. Like let me just design something. I don't care about like
that's how I am now.
You know, like colors and like why this goes with this. Like I wasn't trying to hear that. And studio time, like being in the lab till like 3-4 o'clock on like a weekday was like in the morning was normal. And I just didn't have the discipline. I didn't have the focus at the time, man. And I actually ended up switching my major because like my GPA was like a I always laugh when I say this. My GPA was like a 1.868.
Really?
At the end of my freshman year. Like, I don't even know what I was doing, man. Like, I think
at the crib eating pizza, bro. What you?
Bro, it was either I was hooping all the time, and then I just didn't know how to study. But also, like, I was in a major where I just wasn't getting it. Right. So my professor at the time, never forget, Kat, if you're watching, that's her name. Professor Kat, she was like, "Yo, like, you might want to switch your major, cause it's not looking good." So I was like, "Okay, cool." Switched my major, and I switched it to like digital information design. So long story short, I graduated in 2013, ended up working maybe like 5 or 6 years in corporate America. And from there, like each job was just like, it just wasn't it. Like I was just pretty much just chasing money,
right?
Trying to work in my field, but it was just like I was just doing just like from commercial real estate to material handling to jan sand, like wooden floors. None of these things I care about. But I always did like graphic design on the side, just like as like, you know, if somebody needed a logo. Yeah. That's about the only time I did it. And 2019, I got let go from my job. Like before the pandemic hit, like I had my quote unquote pandemic like beforehand, like cause I got let go from my job unexpectedly. Had just got a raise, just had a baby, just moved into this house, and they were like, "Yeah, we're going into a different direction." After you just get a raise, still don't know how that happens.
Yeah.
But anyways, like it kind of threw me into entrepreneurship because like I was still looking for jobs and everything, but like now I realized like, well, I got to make money. So that's when I really got serious about graphic design, like on a full-time like basis. And it was rough, man. Like I remember like May through June, probably even July, like there was times where like for the month I made like $20. And that was like from stuff I wasn't expecting because like my rates were not $20.
Yeah, right.
It was just like, hey, this is all I got, bro. So can you do this? Yes, because I need 20. I need this money. So to see from where it was in the span of a year, like we were talking earlier, man, like God has really breathed on this business to the point where like I'm literally having to like pace out and like I gotta get me a whiteboard for the office, like really schedule out even more like the work that's coming in. But it's everything I asked for. Like I always say, I just want to create and I want to preach the gospel. Like that's all I once I really started to know who I was becoming or who God had made me to be and becoming in that, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what it came down to. So now I'm doing it. Yeah. It just doesn't look like how I thought it was going to look like, you know what I'm saying? But
it never does.
It never does, bro. It never does. Because I guess if it did, it's like we could get the credit. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what it is. Like you see something in your head and he don't show you like the middle, the struggles, the tears, the blood, the sweat.
Because you run.
Because you run.
if I saw like what I'm sitting in right now, like I'm like, I'm gonna stick to that 9 to 5.
Right.
And the thing is, like in our culture, I think, right, like 9 to 5s are deemed as like bad. Like if you ain't an entrepreneur, you ain't doing it.
Right.
Which I don't believe entrepreneur life is for everybody.
Right.
But I think you can do, I don't think it's if or that. Like for some people, like you have to choose between the two, but some people are graced to do both of them and they do it well because you'll take your 9 to 5 and fund what you're building on the side.
And that's the idea.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I think we got to kind of relook on how we even see entrepreneur life as well, man. So
So get into a little bit about your upbringing as a preacher's kid.
Yeah, man. Like my parents have been married for longer than I've been alive, of course. I want to say like 33 years.
Jesus.
It might be 34. Anyways, like my dad is a pastor right now. He's actually in year 2 of his church plant.
Okay.
But he's always been an ordained minister of the gospel. So essentially, he in the church that I grew up in, he was like if God forbid something were to happen to that pastor, he would be like that second man in charge. So there was like always, well, one, let me get on this, like the stuff I could watch on TV. So like I got friends, I got homies that that be clowning me because like I haven't seen like the traditional like all like the black movies that you're supposed to see. Like I haven't like certain music like
Please don't. Which one you ain't seen yet? Let me cover my eyes.
man, go down the list. Go down the
You
list.
seen Rush Hour?
Yeah, I seen Rush Hour.
Okay.
Bro. Rush Hour. I rock.
Friday.
Yeah, I seen Friday.
Boys in the Hood.
I haven't seen Boys in
Jesus.
the Hood. Yeah, I seen Juice.
Okay.
Seen
You get a
Juice.
pass. Okay.
I'm trying to think what else. I'm sure that there's plenty
There's
of
plenty
them.
more. Yeah. Okay.
But like it was just like like it was such a guard about like what I could see, like even when it come down to music. Like I remember like this was when like they had the CD player joints and like the headphones that like
wrap
went around.
It, yeah.
I remember like I used to like sneak and like listen to the radio, man, so that way I can so I could like, actually like not get picked on from my friends, cuz I was listening to like I think it was like 89.7 in Columbia, like which was like the CCM radio station at the time, and then gospel 95.3. So like it was either 95.3 or 89.7.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't listen to like any rap stations, like you know what I'm saying, MTV Music Awards come on, got to turn it off.
What?
Like BET. So
that,
it was like
I was the same way. I couldn't. I said in a episode I'm dropping today on another show that I used to have to flick the TV, like TV back and forth. Like if she be in the kitchen, I flick the TV back and forth. It'll be on mute and going back and forth.
Come home, because at 4 o'clock, Rap City in the basement used to come on. But before my parents came, go back. Well, first of all, I wasn't supposed to have the TV on anyway because I was supposed to be doing homework.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was like that type of life, and my parents, like, this is the thing about my parents, like they were great. They were great. I think looking, because I have a son now, they were only doing one based upon their experience,
right?
Based upon like their background. My dad grew up holiness. Both my dad and I think my mom was holiness. My dad was like Pentecostal.
Ooh.
So you combine the two, it's like
holy oil everywhere.
Yeah, and it wasn't like it was like they were like we can't wear like certain things. Even with that, like my parents were like pretty lenient. Like it was just more of what does that stuff say? Like certain things I probably couldn't get away with. Like
I couldn't wear skulls.
Yeah, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, it was more of just like I think my parents, their desire was just to make sure that, like any parent, you want your child to know who Jesus is, and the whole scripture, train up a child in the way they should go. Yeah, like that's what my parents' intentions and their heart was, and I don't fault them for that. Right. I think for me, I had, as I got older, especially going into high school, and even like I maybe started like in middle school, I started to kind of like maybe the word is resented, because it was like, dang man, I can't. It wasn't like I was on lockdown, but it's like, you start to look at your friends, especially because you're in public school.
And I was going to ask you about that too, because I'm like, that's an interesting dichotomy for a preacher's kid.
Oh, yeah.
To be in public school.
Yeah.
And then still have the restrictions, but you in public school, so it's just like.
Yeah, I was in private school, like kindergarten, and then I got switched to public school, which I thank God. But
I wish I would have went to public school.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, and like as I got older, like in high school, it was like, I started to see like the barriers or like the boundaries that were set all these years, but I started to really see them for what they were. Like, Friday nights, like, this is curfew. Like, curfew wasn't like, this is your time. It was like, what time do you think you should be home? Okay, you should probably be home like maybe 30 minutes before, or like closer to like 40 minutes home. You know what I'm saying? Like, but my parents, like they trusted me, because I never really gave them issues, because again, I was like so in my mind, like I was like very religious. So I was like, oh, you can't go party, you can't do this, like you can't cuss, you can't do that, you go to hell, you know what I'm saying? So like I was like, all I'm gonna do is just I'm gonna play video games and I'm a hoop. Yeah. Like that's what kept me out of trouble. Like basketball and pretty much just being at the house and then working in high school. But besides that, that was like my life, man. It was very structured, very like boundary, like never went to the club growing up, like never went to a party. I think like I
never went to no parties, but you had a curfew, so you just out eating with friends on
Friday
nights?
Like in high school, like where my high school was, like they had like kids would have like house party. I think I went to like one house party, like but I was just like, this isn't me, because I was just like, I'm so used to being in my bubble, and that was like after like a game one time, like my senior year, and I was like, okay, this is how it is. Everybody getting drunk, and again, I never had any alcohol. I was still a virgin. Like, even if somebody wanted to do something at the time, I probably wouldn't even know what to do. And, even like on my journey with pornography during that time, like I think that's kind of like how that creeped in even more because it's just like I would look at people based upon what they did on the outward and say, oh man, you really tripping, like you know, you having sex, like out here guys on the basketball team. Meanwhile, I'm watching porn. Yeah. So it's like you don't see my stuff, but I see yours or I hear about yours. Right. So I justify, you know, based upon what you tell me, but I'm hiding my stuff. It's religious, man. You know what I'm saying? But I think that came from the effects of like keeping this image up as a PK. Oh, like Austin's like preacher boy. You know what I'm saying? Like Rev. Like all right, you know he going. It's time. It's time to pray. You know, like go ahead.
Let's
Austin.
go. Yeah.
Go ahead. You know
how did that make you feel? Like the pressure.
I was like, I would lie though if I said that I didn't like it sometimes, because like when you're religious, you like to like feel like, oh, like I know scripture. You don't. Yeah. Like I know this about God. Like me and God like this. Like, but you like. You don't even know there's like who John is in the Bible. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that religious pride that you don't even realize you're in it because you're blind to it. And there was times where I loved it. And then there was like, especially like when we were in church and Bible study, like in youth group, you know, if somebody had like a question or like we were talking about text, like I would be like, oh yeah, that means that. And it was more of just out of like, let me show you how much I know.
Right.
Meanwhile, on the flip side, as I got older, it was just like, dang man, like, I just want to be like regular. You know what I'm saying? Like I want girls to look at me like he's not the nice guy. Like just see me as Austin. Right. You know what I'm saying? But that came from being a church boy, like being a PK, like, and I think that kind of trickled into college as well. Yeah. Because college is the place where you got all this freedom. Yeah. But when you've been in the box for so long, it's just like, shoot, what does this look like?
That's what I was gonna ask you. I'm like, how was the transition like going from sheltered? Or would you consider yourself sheltered before I said that? You would consider yourself sheltered. So going from sheltered into going into college when you got this door is closed and it's by yourself. Like, how was that transition like?
It was a transition, man. Like I told you, my GPA was a 1.8. I graduated.
But was you cutting up during that freshman year, or did it really suck? Because I remember we had breakfast, and you told me it was like it started later than I feel like. Or did it start freshman year?
I would say like at the end of freshman year.
Okay.
I still was a virgin. I still didn't really go out that. I started going to parties like at the end because I got tired of like always being the joke. Like, oh, you know, Austin ain't going out, so we ain't gonna ask him. So I remember like first time I actually went out, it was like a big deal. Like, oh, are you going out? All right, cool. You know,
that was the first time for me too.
But I still didn't know what to do. I'm just like this is like my first like I went to prom like in high school, but I hated prom. But then like since prom, it was like I didn't ever really went to like a party like girls dancing, like music, like drunk, like I'm like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? So for me, man, it was definitely a transition because. Like you go from again being in the house to just like having all this freedom in the world where it's like, yo, like I don't even know what to do with this. So like my freshman year, I was still quote unquote pretty good as far as just like not getting too crazy. But I think my sophomore year is when everything shifted because one, I was just trying to stay in school, and then two, for me, like because I was trying to stay in school, I was trying to do everything I can to make this college experience what it was supposed to be. So I started getting involved with organizations. Like I started like that was the first time I went to the library. It was sophomore year.
What?
Yes. Because if not, I wasn't going to be there.
Right.
So, you know, my grades turned around, you know, like I'm focusing on organizations. Like it was like this almost like this is who I was freshman year. Like I remember vividly like having conversations with guys. I'm like, yo, you could easily have her right now. Why you not in that?
Same.
And I was just like, I'm waiting for marriage. Yeah. And it was like, huh? Nah, bro, you got, like I'm waiting for marriage. And like I remember like even my freshman year, like moments with females where like there was a prime opportunity, you know, to have sex. And it's
and
like,
got scared.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't do this right now. Like, right. And it was just like, don't mess with Austin. He's like church kid or he's, you know what I'm saying? Like, he ain't rocking like that. So I think like, hearing all those things and then trying to recreate this identity of who I wanted to be my sophomore year, that's like when I turned 19, that was like my first shot I ever had. Turned 19, and I remember my sophomore year is when I lost my virginity. So two major moments in my life that really started to create a new identity for who I thought I was. And that was, I've always had a sense of influence that God has blessed me with, but now I was taking that influence and using it for my benefit.
Right.
Like being able to get girls who I wanted and maybe never had a chance because I had liquid courage with alcohol, creating this identity of who I thought I was because, you know, I'm getting involved in these organizations, you know, in the process of trying to pledge in the fraternity, but, you know, like my grades at the time weren't where they needed to be. So like my motivation is I'm gonna get this GPA, and then when I cross, it's game over. Shutting campus down. Yeah. Shutting campus down. And that was a sense of idolatry as well, because like my heart was turned from, I didn't even know who God had made me to be anymore, because I wasn't going to church. Like when I got to school, like I'm church, like my mom not waking me up. Yeah. we not going to church.
I gotta go.
What are we doing?
Right.
Like I'm staying up Saturday and I don't have to go to church. This is great.
Right.
This is great because you know good and well when we grew up, you can be up all night, but you better be ready for church in the morning.
Right.
I didn't have to worry about that anymore.
30 minutes early too.
Yeah, man. So it's like for intercessory prayer. You know what I'm saying? So like, so to be in that reality, it was just like, yo, like I like this.
Yeah.
I like this. But the thing is, it was like a snowball effect, and it started to get bigger and bigger and uncontrollable to the point where like I never had been like a womanizer. Not that I hit women or anything like that, but just like, you know, kind of being manipulative and, you know, just talking to different girls and just like going through like, I had like different relationships, but it was like, yo, like they weren't anything. Like I had a standard for myself, and I ended up bringing my standard down because nobody accepted the church boy. Right. So I made it like, man, I'm tired of Mr. Nice Guy. Like, you gotta be like a tough guy, you know. Like, so I flipped the role. And you want me to be, okay, well, we can do that. You know what I'm saying? But it was never who I was. So imagine like your sophomore year, junior year. I had 3 semesters of senior year. You know, those 2 semesters of just like, so essentially 4 years, 3 years of walking in an identity that didn't belong to me. Right. Like that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy, bro. So it was I didn't realize how much it was impacting me, but I also didn't realize how much it was impacting others as well. So yeah, man. Yeah.
First thing I wanted to ask too was, so you said your standard had dropped, like from church boy to this. So was church boy within all the rules, regulations, was that a higher standard in itself, essentially, or was that just okay? Did you essentially bring yourself lower, or did you already was yourself already lower at that point since it was, you know, built up with the rules and regulations?
Yeah,
like
I mean, I feel like when I came in as like this church boy, who wanted to keep his image clean because you know what I'm saying, like who my parents were, especially back home, like people know my parents, people know their reputation, people know that they're like,
you can't get away with nothing.
I can't get away with if I let somebody see I cuss on any type of social media platform, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, so like for me, like that standard was, I came into it with that, not even realizing like how high it was, or like how low it was, but I just knew it was like, this is what was set. I think, I don't know, man. Hopefully I'm answering your question. Like, for me, that standard got, I would say like compromised in a sense, because it's just like, and I don't even know if now that I'm thinking about it, I don't even know if that was really like a true standard.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I was getting at. I'm like, so with the church boy, because church boy, under packed in rules, regulation, or whatever, like, so was that even really a standard?
You don't even know who you are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
So it's like, I was living by a standard that I couldn't even uphold. Right. It's almost like the law. Like, this is the standard, and the standard is set by God to show us the need that you can't do this in your own strength. Right. But meanwhile, like, I had this standard of who I think I should be based upon what I think my parents say I should be, based upon what peers say I should be, based upon what everybody else says Austin should be. And truth be told, I can't live up to that. So it's like, I'm appearing to live up to this standard. Meanwhile, I'm struggling in silence. Right. Like, I'm appearing to have this perfect image, essentially, but meanwhile, like, I'm struggling and fighting with pornography because I need something to affirm me to say you're enough. but because I don't feel enough, but I hide it behind sports, I hide it behind fashion, I hide it behind influence and all the things that we hide it behind, being charismatic and being an extrovert. Like, I'm still don't feel like I'm enough.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy saying that when you come from a healthy home. But I think one thing I was talking to one of my guys this week is, I think for me, I see that I chose to see my dad and my mom, and particularly my dad, I chose to see him only in one angle, as an authoritative figure, as like a person who was strict, like, and rightfully so, he had to be in certain situations, but I only chose to see him as that. I didn't see him as like my provider. I didn't see him as like a loving father who, and I knew he loved me, but I tended to gaze at the strictness of who he was more than his loving side, not realizing what he did for me, not realizing the sacrifices, not realizing everything that he put in work as being a father who didn't have a father. Yeah. So he never had the model of what fatherhood looked like, but he did a great job. But meanwhile, because as I got older, I'm looking at, I don't get to do this, I don't get to do that, I don't get to do this. Like now I'm robbing myself of a connection with my father, and I think that translated into my relationship with God. Only seeing God as someone who was always mad at me, who I never could get it right because I didn't pray enough today, because I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Like I didn't have enough devotion time, so now God is mad at me. And then I'm working through pornography. Oh, he really don't like me. You know what I'm saying? Because like there's a perfection that I'm supposed to be living by, because you know I was taught, you know, in church, like, well, no, holiness is what you do. Not understand that holiness is a position that comes through Jesus Christ.
Tell the people, Austin,
you know what I'm saying?
please.
Like, and I think if I had known what I know now back then, there would be so much. I won't even say there would be so much freedom. I would actually walk in the freedom that was already made available to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, not saying I wouldn't have made mistakes, but I think I would have been able to see that what I do is not who I am. And that would have brought so much stuff. I think it would have also made me, like, the way I want to say it is, I would have been able to avoid some things that I probably would have walked into, because when you know who you are, you just, I don't know, man. Like when you know who you are, you just don't do certain things because it's your belief system. So like certain people who have a certain wherewithal, they don't shop at certain stores. Like they don't go into certain environments because they know, like, this is who I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think for me it's just like, if I had a greater idea of not who I was but who Jesus was, man, it would make things much more easier per se. You know what I'm saying?
I always think about, like, now being under grace, I always think about, like, what, you forgot your water?
Yeah, I was like, it's all right here.
I always wonder, like, what it would be like for a child, like, growing up under grace. I get to see that with you and Kanan now. You see what y'all kids get to be like, you know, we'll get into that latter part of the conversation. Yeah. But I always wonder, I'm like, man, I wonder what it's like for a kid to grow up under grace. I still think there will be still struggles at the same time, because, like, okay, you should be watching certain things, but at the same time, finding the balance between what's okay and then what's not okay. Yeah. I always think about that. So talk to me a little bit about, you kind of went into it, but if you could, like, the pros and then the cons of, like, in being a PK.
Man, I'm trying to think where I should start with. Let's do the pros.
Okay.
I think the pros is because of who my parents were, being ministers of the gospel, both.
Foundation.
That foundation, which is crazy because my dad's church is called Foundation of Faith. So I love it. You know what I'm saying? But that's always who they've been. You know what I'm saying? Like, their desire was me to have a foundation, because as scripture says, unless your house is built on the rock, when the waves and the wind come, if it's built on sand, it's not going to stand. And, you know, for me, like, having that foundation of knowing stories, of reading the Bible and understanding what prayer looked like, even at that age, of course, like my perspective of prayer has changed. Understanding it's more of a dialogue now, and understanding that it's not about what I can get from God, but just my conversation with Him consistently throughout my day, not just in a moment. Like understanding having an appreciation for the presence of God, but now I understand that his presence is even with us right now.
Right.
That's not confined to a space. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a great starting point for me. Like, those are the things I appreciate. It helped me create discipline. Like, it helped me to not get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? And in the climate that we're in today, like, as a black man in America, and at that age as a black teenager in America, you already have like 2 strikes against you.
Right.
So especially where I live in South Carolina, like predominantly white, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think my parents raised me the way they did, so that way I wouldn't be put in situations as best as possible that they could protect me. You know what I'm saying? Like, even now it's like, man, that's a whole nother conversation. It's just like, how do you really protect your kids now? But like, I think for them it's just like, shelter me was a form of protection, especially because my mom worked in law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? Like, for a different division, of course. She wasn't like an actual cop, but she worked in a different division, dealing with like special victims unit. So like, you know, for her, she saw stuff like behind the scenes where she like, I got to make sure that I protect my son.
Right.
Especially in our county.
Right.
For those who are watching, you know about, So, yeah, man, like, those are the pros. I think, you know, it created, you know, the character, like, those things right there. I think the cons, man, I would say one of the cons, I guess, is like, I just didn't know who I was. And I don't know if that's like a byproduct of being a PK.
Right.
I just think it was what it was because, again, like, when you have everybody trying to make you Reverend Junior, like, I don't want to be. I don't want to be, you know what I'm saying? But when everybody's throwing that on you, it's like, man, like, dang, like, can I be anything else but a pastor? Can I be anything else but a preacher? And I think, I don't know, man, it was crazy because, like, I grew up, like, I remember moments, even talking now, like, where I would practice like preaching at a young age.
Really?
Yeah, but I don't know what like happened. Like, I don't know if I said grew like as I got older, like that resentment of like, dang, like, this is who Jesus is supposed to be, but like, this is what I'm seeing, you know, like, not from my parents, but per se, but like maybe just like from like religion, like being in church. So it just kind of was like, like, you know, having those questions of like, dang, do I really even know what I believe? You know, like, I didn't like wrestle with that a lot until I really got older. But I think that's one of the cons, man. Just like, you don't really know who you are, so you'll take any identity. So like, I used to rely heavily on being an athlete. And then in college, I relied heavily on being like involved on campus. And then I relied on like my ability to have, you know, game and pull girl. Like, that's what I relied on because that's what my identity was resting in, not understanding. Because here's the thing, like, when you don't have an identity to rest in being Jesus, you'll just rest in anything else that seems fit.
Right.
But it doesn't feel devoid, you know what I'm saying? So that would be like the biggest con, man. Like, I definitely, man, my parents are amazing. Like, so I can't fault them. I can't guilt them for like,
of course not.
Y'all raised me like this, and y'all, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's your fault that I was religious. That don't have nothing to do with them. It's because at the end of the day, we love to say religion versus a relationship over religion, but not understanding that relationship, you know, for so long, it was based upon my parents' relationship with Jesus, not my relationship for myself. So when you get to a place where it's like you and God, like, you can't blame nobody. You can't blame mom. You can't blame daddy. You can't blame grandma. Like, this is on you now. Like,
after a certain age.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you believe it for yourself or not? You know what I'm saying? Because mom is not in this situation with me. Like, you know, my pops, as much as he loves him and he loves me, wants to talk, you know, like, he's always there, but this is Austin's relationship, you know what I'm saying? So that'll be like the biggest thing, man. That'll be the biggest thing.
So like, growing up too, I meant to ask this in the earlier part, like, growing up, like, what was like the worship or reading the word in the house? Was it like, I've heard stories of like the kids they worshiping like at 8 o'clock in the house, during the week, or
I mean,
reading the word during the week. Like, what was that? Was there any type of thing like that going on?
Like, my mom's an intercessor, bro. Like, she what I mean by that, she just has a burden to just pray for people. Like, truly, like, she has a heart for people. So my mom would be up at like 5:30, 5 o'clock, like, always praying. her thing for me was devotion time, devotion time, like buying me like journals and buying me books and like, you know, make sure you do your devotion time, devotion time. So the way I perceived it was wrong because her thing was she just wanted me to have a relationship with Jesus for myself.
Right.
I perceived it as, man, I gotta read today. I gotta pray. Like, I gotta do this. I gotta do that. And I ended up becoming, instead of becoming willing, I was willful. So I became stubborn with it, where I became resentful. Like, I'm not doing this.
Right.
So when I got to college, I wasn't going to church.
Yeah.
Like, I think I had somebody, I was going to a church at the time my freshman year.
Yeah.
And then I had somebody pick me up, and I was just like, I would text them some weekends to pick me up, and the other weekends I wouldn't say anything. And I think after a while they were just like, yeah, he don't want to do this. And after that, I wasn't going to church, man. Like, it was probably like a year. I wouldn't say a year because I would only go to church back home.
Oh, okay.
And then I would just see everybody, and then I would go back to school, and I wasn't going to church. So it was just like, yeah, like.
Yeah, I felt like, I think my freshman year, I was trying to find, like, the church, because I'm like, compared to, you know, where I came from. Compared to where I came from, there's nothing like where I came from in terms of, especially in the city of Charlotte, there's nothing like where I came from. So I'm like, I'm going around Wingate, and I'm like, I'm trying to find certain spots, and it's like, that's not it. That's not it.
Yeah.
Church of Christ, that's definitely like it. Like, just going to different spots, I'm like, that's not it. And then, like, I started to feel like towards like the end of that freshman year, sophomore year, I started to feel like that resentment of like, dang, I'm not supposed to be going to church, but I don't want to go to church. That's not these churches. You know what I'm saying? Like, I started to feel that. Did you feel that at all? Like, man, I don't want to go.
At first,
like that guilt.
Yeah, at first I felt that guilt, especially because my mom, man.
Yeah, I remember you told me.
She used to be like, man, my mom used to be slick. She'd be like, so how was church today? You know, we ran full court, had a couple dunks. That was church because I was at the gym hooping, you know what I'm saying? Like, but that was probably like the guilt, but after a while it wore off because I was just like, I'm not going. And I started to get to that place where like, yo, like I'm getting grown now. Like,
did they accept that at first?
I don't even think it was that they accepted it. We just didn't talk about it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like we just, you know, it was like weird because I don't think they really addressed like where I was because I don't know if they really knew where I was. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember even like when I was like freshman year, you a music guy, you know, like when Roscoe Dash was hot.
Everybody had the mohawk.
Everybody had the mohawks. And I always had the Caesar cut. Like
always.
Like
low even.
Even. And when I got to college, that was like the first time that I could like get my hair cut like how I wanted because I wasn't in my parents' house.
The freedom.
What? And that's when designs were just it, bro.
Yeah.
Like if you saw some pictures now, bro, I was like, man, what did I get cut in my head? I remember I got basketball cut in my head.
What?
I got, bro, I done got everything. I remember this was when like The Dark Knight was like at first drop, and I got like the logo, like the Batman logo, and I had got like Why So Serious on it. Like it was, the joke was fresh though, but it was I was.
What? I'm gonna go on your Facebook. I'm going on your Facebook and I'm posting the video. I'm on your Facebook.
I was in this phase of just like, yo, like everything that I couldn't do, I'm doing it. Like, I think if I wasn't so, at the time, I wasn't so scared of like what my parents were going to say, I probably would have got tatted.
Yeah.
You know, I never really was like a piercing guy, you know, but like,
yeah, I got my ears pierced at like 18.
Yeah, like I would like for me.
My mom took me though. So
for me, it was like music. So I really I dived into like music catalog. My roommate was like a music junkie, so like he was like a hip hop like genius. So put me on like all this music, like so. Yeah, it like the guilt was it actually like started to wear off to the point where like this is where I'm at and I'm okay with it. And then on top of like where I was in those seasons of just like, you know, I don't go to church. I look forward to Thursday because I don't have class on Friday, and we turning up. You know what I'm saying? Like we going up. You know what I'm saying? Like, really seeking my identity in clothes because I always had to make sure I had a good fit.
Of course.
Like, especially for the weekend. Like,
of course.
And that's when Instagram really like started popping off. So, everybody used to post their fits like every day.
Every day.
You know what I'm saying?
After class, give me a flick real quick.
Yeah. Hey, rotate this picture.
Yeah. I remember that too. I remember there's a picture. I deleted it now. But this is when cardigans was everybody still wearing the cardigans and the khakis. And I was like, bro, I got this first cardigan, I got these khakis, had these shoes. And I was like, oh, bro, flick me up real quick, bro. You know what I'm saying? I remember that.
The picture with the three frames.
Yeah, that's when that pick stitch, all that stuff was in. Ooh,
can't tell us nothing, man. Yeah. But like I said, I laugh now because I was like, man, what was I doing?
Yeah.
What was I doing?
That stuff was ugly.
Like, I didn't know who I was.
Right.
Like, legit, man. So, but I can laugh now, man.
So with like the piercings, you were saying the piercings and the tattoos and the haircuts and everything like that. Do you feel like if you growing up, if you were told the right perspective of those things, do you think you still would have shied away? Like if your parents didn't want you to have a tattoo and say, okay, well, scripture is this, but it's really people been taken out of context. But I really don't want you to have a tattoo because these reasons out in the world. Do you think you still wouldn't have got it, or do you think that whole I can do whatever I want now came because of that?
I don't know, man. Cause like if they were like, yo, if you want to get one, you can, but I would prefer you not to have one.
Right.
I probably, out of respect for them, I probably would have waited until I got to school and I would have got tatted up. Okay. And then when they said, I'm like, oh, I mean, okay, well, you at that age now.
Right.
So like it probably would have been on like that. Haircuts, like I've always.
You was in public school. That's I'm just like. I went to a private school.
Oh yeah.
So I had the low even.
Yeah.
You went to public school, you could wear whatever. That's I'm just like, you still couldn't get no.
Oh yeah, because like in middle school, like that's when AI.
Yeah.
Like, Iverson was that guy.
Yeah.
I'm a Lakers fan, so I had the most I ever had was a fro because of Kobe.
Yeah.
Like I had the Kobe fro, 6th grade, and I used to wear my Lakers jersey like pretty much every other day. I had the Adidas joints my godmom gave me. The yellow one, the moon shoes. Like I had those. Yeah. So like
jokers.
I had that was like the most extreme, and I think like I had a chain at the time, but it couldn't have like anything crazy on it, like So that was like living on the edge for me, like. But like you said, like as I got older, it was just like, okay, like if I come home with a mohawk, like I really started to question things. I'm just like. Is there like this I don't even know how I want to say it, like is there this connection or this is there like this standard that if I have to pretty much like look a certain way, like we gotta be the Huxtables. Yeah. Like let's keep it about like we gotta be the Huxtables, like, or we doing Fresh Prince, I gotta be Carlton because you're Uncle Phil.
Right.
Like that's how I felt sometimes. Like like I have to look like this because people know who my parents are.
Right.
So like that's why when like now, like me now, I don't care. Like I'm transparent, and it's not for a show. It's just like I've been hiding for so long.
Right.
Like you get tired of hiding. So like now I'll say stuff on social media. Not to just start a fire, but it's just like, like I'm okay with like being who I am.
Right.
Like I'll wear crazy stuff, not because I want to be different. Like I got a tie-dye shirt on. Like I probably wouldn't have worn that back then.
You're right.
I'm like
probably thought it was something demonic.
Yeah, man. Like I got like stuff in my like what I'm saying, like even shoes and everything. Like I like my shoes right now like funky colors. Like my dad is very like conservative dresser, like stripes, and he dresses nice, but that's just his style. But sometimes you want to impose your style or your preference into your children. And like for me, it's just like meanwhile that was happening, I was really suppressing who God had made me to be. I'm a creative. Like I've always been a creative since I was young. Like I could draw anybody out the class. Like I was always a creative. So like when you're creative, it speaks to like how you dress. It speaks to the music you like. It speaks to the culture that you like to be around. Like so when you suppress that based upon somebody else's preference, it's like you don't even fully walk in the reality of who you are because you're trying to fit and compromise for somebody else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. And then maybe that's what the frustration was. You know what I'm saying? Like, dang, like this ain't who I am, but I'll just be this for you. And then when you get into an environment where you can really be, like college is the place where you can be who you want. If you were lame in high school, Nobody will ever know.
Period.
Unless they went to high school with you.
Period. And that's why I go by Drew now. That's the reason why my whole life was Andrew. Andrew was lame. Andrew didn't get no girls. Andrew was the virgin coming out. Andrew got picked on. Andrew was all this stuff. So as soon as I graduated high school, I changed Facebook name to Drew Moves On, and that was it. Like people started calling me like Drew, I think around like senior year, but it was Drew Moves On, and still today, everybody knows me as Drew Moves On. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, oh, your first name's Andrew? I'm like, yep. You'll never call me Andrew and it's like I guess I still gotta work through that internally, but yeah, like completely different. That Drew Moves On is a completely different person from what Andrew was. Only my wife and my mother will ever get to call me Andrew because that takes me to that place of that hurt and that pain and the struggle of like, man, don't nobody like me. That takes me to that place. I'm like, college, Drew Moves On. Like, and you get to create whatever identity. But then also, like within that, you also like once I graduated, I'm like, that wasn't me at all. That still wasn't me. Once I graduated, I'm like, bro, this still wasn't me. I should have left the people that I was hanging around junior year after I got drunk and almost died. I should have left the people. I should have left that as soon as I did that. But I didn't think about that. I just wanted to be cool. I just wanted to continue to go to the parties and whatever. I wasn't cool, but like I hung around with cool kids. So I'm like, I just wanted to continue to do that. So I didn't. But I'm like, once I graduated, I'm like, yeah, this is not me. I don't keep in touch with a lot of people I went to college with. In the first place, because I'm like, that wasn't me still.
That's real. That's real, man. That's so real.
So I wanted to talk about So did you ever feel any pressure growing up to be just like your father?
Oh yeah, it was like the expectation, like
to turn out just like him.
I won't say like turn out just like him, but you know, like because my dad's known as like man of integrity. He's known to be like, especially like in the church, like he's a man of God, like you know. Minister of the gospel, preacher, like, you know, growing up, man, I ain't thought about this in a minute, but like my dad would go, he's from Gaffney, South Carolina.
Okay.
So that's like upstate, and he would go to my uncle's church, who's a pastor as well. So his brother's a pastor. So it's in our family.
From a lineage. Oof.
Yeah. So like, he would go to his brother's church to preach like often, and I would be like his like armor bearer. Like I would have his suitcase, like his sweat rag, like make sure he had like his food, like, and I loved that. But there was just something that happened, man, like when I got to like, I think when I got older, like I said, where I started just to resent that. And I don't know if I fully have like resolved or found out what that exactly was. Again, it may be just like the perspective of who I saw God to be. I think maybe that's a part of it. But yeah, man, I think the pressure was definitely there because, and thing with pressure is like, for me, sometimes I would try to say that my parents put the pressure on me, but I can't say that's true because, like,
really,
you know, like I don't think it was intentional.
Okay.
I don't think it was intentional. I think like they just wanted the best for me, like, cause my dad just loves Jesus so much. So like, if I told my dad, yo, I'm gonna be a preacher one day like you, he would love that. Why? Because growing up, he didn't have a relationship with his father, so that was completely absent. So imagine your son, and you're trying to figure out how to do fatherhood right. And your son comes up to you and says, Daddy, I want to be just like you.
Right.
I think that's everything. And I think, man, this conversation is like helping me for real. Like, I think that is the reason why my dad raised me the way he did, because again, he wanted what he didn't get. So he was going to do marriage right. He was going to do parenthood right. And it's hard because how do you do it right when you've never seen it right at all?
Facts.
So that's why I can't fault my parents and say that it was their fault. They were only doing what they knew best. I think for me, it was like, you have to understand that, you know, sometimes we look at pressure as something other people put on us, but maybe it's what we put on ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Again,
assumptions or something like that.
Yeah, like when you don't know who you are, man, like you will, again, when you're trying to figure out like, all right, what's my reality, what's my identity, then there's this underlying pressure. Because I have to be everything for everyone else, and I have to not create the standard, but maintain the standard of my family, especially because I'm a big brother too, you know, and my brother's always watching me. You got to be a good example for your brother. like, dang, man, like, maybe that's where the pressure came from. You know what I'm saying? Like, always had to make sure my grades were straight. You know what I'm saying? Like, basketball, like, always wanted to be like an example. Even in that, you know, I think all those things were like factors in the pressure. And, you know, people handle pressure differently. Pressure would make you do some crazy things. Like, pressure will make you and shape you into someone that you never really was.
Right.
So yeah, man, I think that's kind of like what it looked like. I think that's what it looked like, man.
So you talked about identity. So could you like kind of go into a little bit more about like, did you struggle trying to form your identity? And then like, what was that process like finding it? You're 28.
Yep.
Would you say that you found who you are? You're still, every single day is still a process.
I think I'm still in the process. Not that I'm trying to find out who I am. Right. I know who I am. I'm a son. You don't have to overcomplicate it. I'm a son, and God's my father. Like, that's the basis of our relationship, and it's biblical. Like, you look at Matthew 3, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased.
Right.
If I'm a joint heir with Christ, then I have the same privileges as Christ.
Right.
Like, so having that perspective of knowing that, like, I am a son. So I think for me now, it's not per se learning who I am. It's unlearning who I thought I was and unlearning the religious rhetoric in my mind, because I'm like, God has gifted me not just to be a creator, but I'm a teacher of the gospel. Like, you know, some people are preachers. I feel like I'm a teacher because I just love to break down text. I love to get behind the why, because for so long I didn't know why, and I took only what people said. So like, I only took account for what people told me.
Facts.
Not learning for myself.
Right.
And you see now, man, like, people are so upset with the church. There's been such a misrepresentation of who Jesus is because we've whitewashed him in Hollywood. Like, people don't know or don't want anything to do with Jesus because we haven't been shown the right Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, so for me, like, I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm a teacher, and I don't know, man. Like, I would say, and I'm kind of low key losing my thoughts. Reiterate the question again.
So the question was, did you struggle forming your own identity apart from your father? And then how did you deal with that as you got older?
Got you. So like, I think, okay, yeah. So like, because I'm unlearning who I am. I think when it comes to that struggle of like my identity, I definitely think there was a struggle, just because, like, you know, like everything we've been saying with the unsaid pressure, I think that caused a struggle with identity, especially as I was struggling with other things, like pornography and just like, you know, just who I am as a young black boy who lives in a white town. Who, I mean, you have situations, man, like where I remember like third grade, teacher was talking about like civil rights movement, and she's like, you know, well, black people, and she wasn't like making fun. She was just like, she was telling the facts, like black people made less money during that time because of, you know, injustice and, you know, because of rights, you know, like Jim Crow and all that stuff. And like the class just bust out laughing. And yes.
And you were the only black kid?
I believe it may have been one more person.
Heck no.
So I was like hurt. I remember like, you know, feeling bad about like, dang, my name is Austin Smith. Like, I have the whitest name. Like, I used to get like, even like family members, like on my dad's side, used to be like, oh, you got like a white boy name.
Like, and I said this earlier in terms of like how white people speak, and I think that's called microaggression or something like that, right? And just like, oh, I was watching somebody on Instagram, and I was like, oh, she speak like a white girl. I'm like, oh, that's microaggression. I need to stop that. Like,
yeah, because it's like, what does that even mean? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you're not black enough. Like, you know, you wear. I remember like, you know, in high school, people would wear like. I would like wear like jerseys and stuff like in Jabot so I could just fit in. But I was more of a polo and Sperry's type dude. And that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Because
that was that era too.
And that's who I really was. But you know, it was deemed as that's not black enough. Like what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's toxic as well, like in our community. So you have all those different factors that play into, that's just in the physical and the natural. Then you have spiritually, where you don't even really understand scripture in the right context, because
Right.
you're living essentially like under the law,
Right.
because you haven't seen Jesus who came to fulfill it. Like there's this like, dang, like who are you? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think with all of that. Sorry, I went through that trail, man. But
I like the stories.
yeah, it's I think that's kind of like what that was for me.
Right.
You know, when it comes to like just the identity piece.
So like, did you like growing up? You said you grew up in a church, and so was your father ministering every single week, or
Not every single week, but I mean he had a prominent role in the church. But then also like he had like engagements pretty often, and there would be Sundays where he would preach, or he would do like new members class, or he would do like Wednesday night Bible studies for like the men, or he also did prison ministry. So he was constantly ministering in different ways. It might just not have been like on a traditional Sunday, like every single week. But yeah.
So with that, like, did you ever feel like you were treated differently than other children, or like by children, or other peers, or just adults in the church?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Like, you know, I think at least with adults, they like, I mean, people knew who my dad was, so like, there's a common respect. But then also like, I'm pretty sure like I got
100,000 eyes on you.
Yeah, you got everybody looking at you, and you probably like, you know, of course there's this expectation. Oh, you so and so son, so you know, just living up to that.
Yeah.
I think I probably got away with like stuff. You know, I probably could get away with stuff that other kids couldn't. I think like
Really.
Like, and I say that more just like, you know, like people are probably more lenient because like
forgiving or something.
Forgiving, you know what I'm saying? Like you ain't gonna whip the pastor's kid, or you're not gonna put them in trouble. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think it was like kind of like on that too. Like as far as like with the kids, I mean, yeah, I feel like there was probably times or situations where, especially like kids like in our church and our ministry at the time, like we were cool, but like I wonder if like because of who my parents were, like did that like do anything with like my friendships, or like like even with girls, you know what I'm saying? Like I never really thought about it like that, but I'm sure there was.
Yeah,
I'm sure there was, man, because you know like the people just had this expectation, oh, your parents are so and so, so you have to be like this, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm sure there was some type of like, you know, special preferential treatment, you know, stuff like that.
So with that, so growing up, when did you get saved? Or when would you say you got saved? Because I didn't get saved till 23 because I didn't know what I believed in. I didn't know what I believed in growing up, but even though I was growing up in a see, you gotta say the same thing. Like 25, like you know what I'm saying?
Like, cause I remember I got a Bible from. So I'll say like this, like, cause I truly believe like when I got that Bible, it was like 96. I was born in 91. So I want to say it was like in 96, like in October 96. I remember vividly that my dad like getting me a Bible, and at that time like I pretty much like, I think at the purest form, like, hear me when I say this, I knew who like Jesus was. Like it wasn't like I had this revelation of like, oh, he's this, and this. I could teach you all this. All I knew is Jesus died for me because he loved me and he wanted to save me, and he was raised from the dead so that I could live. Like at the purest form, that's what I knew, and that's the gospel. You know what I'm saying? Like I believed that. So like I believe I was saved. Like as I got older though, like it went from like I just kind of like stayed at that place where it was just like, okay, like, you know, he like this is what he did. But like as I got older and started like having more questions, I think I was like more like mental Christianity, where it's like I didn't really like ask questions. Like I would be afraid to have conversations with Buddhists. Like I would be afraid to have conversations with atheists.
Right.
Because again, as I got older, maybe my relationship went from, for myself at that pure age, to, you know, oh, this is because my parents are saved, so, you know, we're in the South, so I got to be saved, you know, go to church, all that stuff. Like, so I think it started there. But as I got in my 20s, I say like around 22, is when like things really started to change. And to be truth be told, man, it's like every day, like I don't want to say like every day I'm getting saved again, but like every day, like I'm seeing who he really is.
Right.
Especially like within the last 2 or 3 years, I would say like last 2 years or so, like just really diving into like the essence of who he is as grace, like what that really means, not what the church has perverted it to become,
right?
But like who he really is, like studying books like Romans. We're actually in the series right now, like for our team in Colossians, and Colossians just blesses me, man, because it's like Paul just goes off in there because he's just reminding them of who they are,
right?
And it's essentially like just highlighting the essence of who Jesus is, like his deity and his sufficiency. Like that's what Colossians is. And I think when you just focus on who he is, everything else starts to take care of itself. And for me, it was just like, man, like really learning and renewing my mind and my belief system of like, yo, like this is what I truly believe. And I think when you grow up religious, it's like I said, every day is unlearning those things. So it's not maybe of learning so many new things. I think it's renewing your mind to those things, but unlearning what you thought was true, but really was out of context or how you perceived it to be. You know what I'm saying? So
I think that's like the biggest thing for a lot of millennials. I think we have to think for ourselves, especially ones that grew up in church. We're not taught to think for ourselves. Our thoughts are given to us. Yeah. And trying to just relearn that. So like with that, so was there ever a point where you like resisted the gospel at any point? Because usually like when you think of preachers' kids, they have not it's the word, not notoriety, but it's most notable. Like some preachers' kids, they resist it. I'm out of here with that. Yeah, open rebellion. Like I resist that. All right, it's not working for you. I see this at home. It's not going this way, but you preaching. Like I forget. It was the Clark sisters watching that movie, and their father was a minister, but he was beating his wife when he came home. Wow. But he was a minister, and they grew up in a minister's house. But they saw their father beating Maddie Moss Clark. So you think about that, like a lot of them, sometimes I don't want to put all preachers' kids in a hole. Yeah. But sometimes they have a sense to resist. So you didn't ever resist?
I think my resistance was more like in college. I'm just gonna do what I want to do. Like I'm at a place where like I have this essential freedom. So this is me doing what I want to do. But like I probably like my junior year, even though I wasn't going to church, like there was still that guilt of just like, it was a combination of guilt and it was a combination of like, I know I don't got no business doing this because this isn't who I am. Right. But I like it. Right. I'm having fun. Right. For the first time in a while, I feel like I know who I am. Yeah. And this is cool. And people are accepting it. That too. You know what I'm saying? Right. So like, I think that's what it was for me. But like open rebellion, like I'm just done with God. I can't really say that. Like I think around my junior years, like when I actually started going to church again for myself, and I started going to a church that's really popular in Charlotte, and I would just sit in the back. I wasn't trying to serve or anything like that. I just love because the dude can preach, like crazy. And there was some Sundays where I go with a hangover, but I just wanted to go to church because I was like, I knew where I wasn't it. So I was just like, well, maybe let me do the Christian thing to do and let me go to church. Right. So maybe I can feel better about where I am right now. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that was just my mindset back then. Because again, I didn't understand like I was still righteous. That's crazy. Like I was still righteous even though I was like in seemingly like rebellion. Because my righteousness wasn't based upon what I was doing. It was based upon what he did, like what Jesus did. So like even if I understood that, like I wouldn't have gone through half of the guilt and shame and condemnation that I went through. Yeah. But again, like when you just don't know, you don't know. Right. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like that would be like what it was for me, man. Word. Yeah.
So with that, why do you think preachers' kids have the reputation that they do?
That's a loaded question. I think it's pretty complex.
And then I was like, oh yeah. Then the other part was like, and how can pastors like reverse the stigma in the children? That's a whole nother question. So
yeah.
So answer the first one because
I get I'll be like early like dang man, I get lost in my thoughts sometimes.
Yeah. But so why do you think preachers' kids have the reputation that they do?
I don't think I would be wrong in saying that, like, I don't say we deserve it. Like, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
But it's like, we've seen story after story, or like we've known people after person who fits like the stereotype of like what a preacher kid does, like, get in trouble. And let me take that back. Like, it's not everybody, you know what I'm saying? Like, so why are preacher kids, like, why did they get that stereotype? Or like,
yeah, why do you think they
I don't know, man. Like, I think it's just based on like who's saying it, and who sees it, maybe. Like, because I know cats who like grew up as PKs, and they're doing very well. Like, they never really got in trouble or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just like, I don't know, like, and sometimes like if we be real, like the church can be really messy. Mm-hmm. So we like mess. Yeah. We pray about mess, but we like to dabble in it. I don't know, like, I think for me it's more just like who's saying it and the perspective. I don't, like I said, I know that every kid's not the same. Right. And maybe sometimes it's just like, it's just a thing to say, like, oh, you a PK? Oh, like, no, like, like I was a PK. Like, for some people, like, I was a PK, and like, okay. And other people like, I was a PK, and like, because it's the same thing. Like, if any stereotype, like, we tend to throw people into like, oh, like, you're this, so you have to do this. Right. Like, nah, like, like.
Yeah, I just always wondered like where the disconnect came from. Same thing, like I know why, because of religion in the first with the second part, but like I always wonder like where like disconnect came from, like with Christianity being viewed as the Ten Commandments or the Old Testament. So I'm like, I always wonder like where was the disconnect where people who don't believe in God, those Christians, that's all they do. Like, I remember I said this story. I was at a party with coworkers, and they were talking about like Christians or whatever. Me being there, I wasn't like being bashed or whatever, but they were just talking about the views, and I'm trying to tell them like, oh no, that's old covenant. We're under a new covenant now. Mm-hmm. But all their views was like, oh yeah, they're not supposed to eat shellfish and stuff like that. I'm like, they're all stating law stuff and calling it Christianity. Yeah. So like, I always wonder like, what's the disconnect when it came to like, why do preachers' kids get this bad hookup, or not bad hookup, but you already know somebody's story. As soon as they say they're a preacher kid, you already know their story.
But to that point, then it's just the context, and we don't have proper context biblically, but then we also don't have context in people's lives. Like, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Right. So to your point was like and I'm probably gonna get fried for this. I haven't seen the Clark Sisters movie. Like, I didn't watch it, but
it was on Lifetime. It was Lifetime.
But if you have situations like that, which are true, where you've had pastors who are sleeping with women in the church, you got pastors who are preaching about, you better not drink because it's a sin, and you'll go to hell. But meanwhile, they got a whole case in their at home. Right. So maybe it's it's the context, because people don't see behind the scenes of why this child is reacting the way they do because of what they see. Like, children aren't just crazy. Children are some of the most honest individuals that exist, because a child would tell you straight, like, they'd be like, that shirt is ugly. Like, your breath stinks. Like, a child doesn't hold back. Right. You know what I'm saying? So, like, when you see two different realities in public and then at home, not saying that wasn't my case, but like, maybe for other people, like, you talking about loving your wife like Christ loves the church, but mama and you were arguing about why sister Jeanette
was
in the house or
right.
texting you. Right. And it wasn't just like a quick argument. Like, I heard stuff being thrown. There's a disconnect. So why would I follow this Jesus that you're preaching about on Sundays, but I'm not seeing in my home? Because if we be honest, like, for pastors or anybody in ministry, and really just being a man, period, who has a family, like, your family is your first ministry. If you can't pastor your family, you don't need to pastor a church.
Facts.
Like, we have sometimes taken the role of a pastor because it gives you status that you didn't get in other areas. So it's a sense of affirmation and it's a sense of identity that people rest in because it gives you power. But when you don't know how to handle that, you abuse it. And not only does it affect you and your congregation, it affects the children who are watching you because children are like sponges. So yeah, maybe that's what it is, man. It kind of took some more dialogue to kind of navigate through that, but maybe it's just the context. Like I'm seeing two different realities, so it's just like this can't be God, so I'm gonna just do my own thing. Like don't talk about holiness is right and we can't wear pants, but you doing this. So if I'm a young lady, I'm gonna wear stuff on my shorts, and I'm gonna do the complete opposite of what you telling me I can't do, because what you telling me I can't do, you're not even doing yourself. Yeah. So why would I? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's the reality. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, like, you being about to step into this pastoral role now, do you often think about how you raise your son and trying to not raise him in a too sheltering way or anything of that nature? Do you, like in the same ways that you were, do you often think about that? Like,
yeah, I mean, not as much right now because he's so young, but I do catch myself like, I mean, even with some of these cartoons, man, like it's not like he can't just watch like certain things, but I'm like very like cognizant of what he is watching as a parent, because it's just like it's that question's so loaded, man. One is like, okay, just on the natural sense, like, and I was thinking about this morning because as a graphic designer, like I was looking for like some stock images of like just young black boys for like a project I'm working on. It's so hard to find them.
Pexels.
Pexels? Okay, cool.
Pexel.com.
I didn't know about Pexels, but like what I was using, I didn't see what I needed. And I was like, man, there's a need. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like I watch a lot of the stuff that he watches as far as like cartoons and even like these nursery rhyme. He loves nursery rhyme videos right now. But they're like all white people. And I'm just like, you don't see any type of representation of like colored kids, like brown kids, like black children in these nursery rhymes. Right. The wheels on the bus go round and around, like, and it bothers me. You know what I'm saying? So like, and I don't feel bad for saying that. I'm just I want my child to see that like every child looks different and they're not all white, because again, growing up, like we saw white Jesus, we saw white Moses, right, in the Middle East.
Charles Heston.
You know what I'm saying? Like that just doesn't make sense to me. So like, a part of me is like, we're not doing that.
Yeah. So, okay. So some of the context is in the sheltering. It's not even thinking about the sheltering. It's wanting to raise them in black images. Black images.
And not just like black images. I just want him to know truth. Like, cause truth be told, like Jesus isn't black. Like I might get some slack for that, but like it's Jesus from Nazareth. Like he's brown skin. You know what I'm saying? Like Jewish though. Like, because in order to understand the Bible in context, we have to understand it within that culture, which was a Jewish culture. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think, for me, I just want him to know truth. But I also, as a parent, I have a responsibility of like knowing what he's watching and everything, because I know it only takes one moment for him to see something that he has no business seeing. Yeah. Not saying I can protect them always, because once he gets older, we'll have those conversations. Right. I was just telling my wife, yesterday actually, like I don't, or actually this morning, like I don't want to be that representation or that image of a father who's always mad, always yelling, who's always like, don't do this, don't do that, you can't watch this, you can't do that. Yeah. Because I know what that produces. That produces, I can't do that, I'm going to do that. Yeah. And I'm going to do it when you're going to sleep. Right. And I'm going to do it, like, keep it a buck, like BET or cut. Yeah. Like, we know we can't watch that. So we're going to watch it. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's what the law does. Like, coveting is a sin. What's coveting? I didn't know that coveting was a sin, but now that I know it, I want to covet. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, like for me, I definitely want to, in a sense, like, let him, I'm not about to be like, you can't watch Batman, you can't watch certain, like, shows, like, for kids, but I will, like, watch what he's watching to make sure that it's nothing, like, crazy. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think the balance comes in that, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah. And it's
because I always think about that. I'm like, how like y'all have sons. I'm thinking of you and Kanan. Y'all have sons. I'm like, growing. I'm like, how y'all gonna like under grace? Like, what does that look like? And then it's just like, if you could put some words to that, like, man, like in certain aspects, like, what would that look like to you if you could think that far?
Day by day.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what parenthood is, man.
Right.
Like, one thing they didn't give me was the manual on how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got the Bible, of course, which is our as kingdom people, as believers in Jesus Christ, like, that's our blueprint on life. But the Bible doesn't tell you in Luke 4 verse 22 that you should not watch this show.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it gives you the principle of things and the heart behind God's heart, because, you know, it's his heart revealed. Like,
right.
So, yeah, I think it's day by day. Like, it's making mistakes. It's learning that, like, hey, you shouldn't react like that. Like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to whoop them every time. Like, because sometimes we, especially in the black community, we go and grab the belt. And I believe,
stick, cord.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I believe in, like, discipline, but
Right.
like, every time doesn't have to be a whooping because you in a black house. Like, sometimes we do stuff because it's in our culture, but it doesn't mean that it was right. Like,
I didn't even grow up with whoopings. That's the crazy thing.
Really?
People look at me like, I didn't even. I just got my TV taken away from me. That
was enough for you?
That was enough for me. I've talked to people and it was like, bro, whoop me right now so I can just get back to whatever, like, watching the TV. I'm like, nah, I'd rather just take the TV away from me.
I got whoopings, but then when I got older, like, I started getting the video game taken away.
Oh, nah, I never got whooped. The most I got was like a slap on like the hand. Or
I got whooped. Oh yeah, facts. So yeah, I mean, but I think, like, if with some situations, if we just had a conversation, because again, it's creating this fear-based, like, relationship with your parent or just with discipline, because it's just like, dang, I better not do this, but like, I can't help it. Like, I want to do this. So, like, or I just take the punishment, but I'm gonna feel guilty. Like, instead of having a conversation and hitting us in the mind and saying, hey, you can't do this because these are the consequences. Okay, if I do this, these are the consequences, and this is what's gonna happen. I better not do that.
Right.
But if I do that, then I learn the consequence, and now you see why I said don't do that.
Right.
Now I discipline you because you didn't listen to what I told you. I'm disciplining you out of love.
Because you knew,
Yeah, because you made the choice.
Right.
So now, if you think about doing it again, you're going to remember why. Not out of fear, but because, okay, like, nah, I shouldn't do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that's the disconnect for so long. It's always been how we grew up. Don't do this, don't do that. But there's no explanation of why. And I think things would have been a lot differently for me, especially like if I had like somebody your age at my high school or like in middle school or whatever for these young adult nights or something like that, and actually, you know what I'm saying, talk to us like, okay, this is why you don't want to have sex before marriage.
Tell us the truth. Like, don't be like, sex is good, sex is amazing.
Right.
We're waiting till marriage.
Right. Like,
if it's so good, let's go now. You know
right, let's go see it. Yeah. Instead of saying, okay, well, no, think about the relationship issues. You don't want like 5-6 girls around. You know, like talk about that. And I think that's like didn't happen for me until like I had I was around 23, 24 when I started going to a ministry that really dealt with that and asked the questions to these things and answer those things for me, where I begin to be okay with, okay, I'm gonna wait till I'm gonna get married because I understand now. Versus trying to lose it because I just want to know what it feels like because I told me I couldn't have it my whole life. Or not getting drunk because of all that stuff. So I think that's really like the disconnect for a lot of things. Like, I think that has to change, especially in the black community, but in church community, period. I think in order for us to see real change from like steering the stigma away from church kids or PKs as the over-religious ones who were stuck under a whole bunch of bondage and religion, couldn't do nothing and gone and wilding out. I think in order to like to reverse the stigma is to, okay, I'm gonna tell you, I don't want you to do that, but this is why. Okay, you want a tat right now? Okay, I'm gonna get you a wait. I'm gonna wait a little bit. I don't got a problem with it. I'm gonna wait a little bit. Ear piercing, I'm gonna wait a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You can wear your hair. Okay, this is why, you know, and understanding the repercussions of that. So
yeah, that's real, man. Yeah, that's real. That's good stuff.
So, last question. Do you have any advice for the youth and for church kids, PKs that may come across this video on navigating that season, in their household, or just as a PK, like any advice for grown Austin looking back that could help them navigate this season?
Like if I could tell myself
Right.
back then,
Right.
man.
Better question than that, yeah.
Yeah, like I would tell myself, it's like you don't have to be who they want you to be. Like you can be who God made you to be. And I know that sounds really churchy. It sounds really churchy. But I would also like to your point, I would wish I had somebody like who was like not my same age, but maybe like a mentor at that time who knew the new covenant of grace, like who could be like that big brother to me that says like, yo, you man, girls are always gonna be here. Don't trip. Like she broke up with you because she don't even know who she is. Y'all in 7th grade. Like
you're in 7th grade.
It's okay, bro. Like it's okay.
Right.
Like, just to give me perspective, because like when you're in the midst of it, you're just like, this is what it is. This is what it, like. And I would really say too is just like, man, know who Jesus is for you. Like, not who your parents have said Jesus is. Not who your pastor has said who Jesus is, because again, if you don't know how to study the word for yourself, or you don't know the scriptures like in context, you'll just adopt and adapt or just absorb somebody's perspective of who they say Jesus is, and you'll live that your entire life. So if Jesus is based upon what I do, and the moment you stop doing, then you're gonna be crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like if Jesus is only based upon getting a certain amount of money in your account, because he wants you to be a good person. If you're a good person, then he'll bless you. Like that's not who he is. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, so my heart, my burden really, man, that's why I teach, like even with college students now, or just why I teach the gospel, man. Like I want people to know who Jesus is. And I can't per se do that for them, but I can teach you the word. And that's why I teach the gospel, man, like, because I just want people to know him and to know why he loves them so much. Like, and he doesn't love us because, like, we have this image that attracted him to us. And, like, we were, like, people say, well, I found God, like he was lost. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, like, it was while we were in the midst of our confusion, while we were in the midst of like, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I'm doing, I like it, and I probably don't even want to get rid of it, or just like I like this. Like he still said yes. Right. That's a different type of love. Like when you really explore and immerse yourself in the grace of God. Like, so there was nothing I could do to earn your love. Like I was on the death penalty seat. They were about to fire me up, and you got up and you say, yeah, I'm gonna take his place. But you knew who I was. Like, I'm watching porn, but you still say like, yeah, I already knew that you're gonna do that. Like, I'm still gonna die for you. Like it wasn't based because I wore a suit to church. It wasn't based because I knew scripture in my mind, but it didn't penetrate my heart. Like, while I was yet a sinner, Jesus still died for me. Love is not that we love God, but that he loved us. Like, when you really, like, that's why I wish I knew. Yeah. Like, not just mentally, but like I knew it. Because if I knew that, I would have a greater appreciation for like, oh man, like I said, I can't say I would never have made mistakes.
Yeah, of course not.
But like I think there would be a lot of seasons that I could have navigated out of and not gone into. I think I made, like the children of Israel, I made 11-day journeys 40 years in the wilderness because of my unbelief. You know what I'm saying? So it's imperative, man, that you know who Jesus is, and like, all right, well, how do I do that? I think it's finding one, and this is hard as a PK, because right, like, what if you're in a church where you're not getting the truth?
Right, and that's the thing. That's the scary part.
You know, like that's a real thing. Right. And I don't know if I have a complete answer. I would say like find like ministry. It sounds bad saying it, but like when you get older, like my loyalty is not to a church. My loyalty is to Jesus Christ. my loyalty is not to a pastor. My loyalty is to Jesus Christ. You know, I am who I am, not by my denomination. I am who I am by the grace of God. So like, you got to know who he is for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes that comes with uncomfortability.
Yeah.
Being uncomfortable. It comes with confrontation.
Right.
It comes with confronting root system structures in your mind and your heart that you always knew to be true. But when you really explore the scripture for yourself and you see 1 + 1 is 2.
Right.
So why are we saying 1 + 1 is 3? Something's not adding up.
And it's right here in the Bible, and I can't even see it. And you telling me it's 3 and it's 2.
If I grow up holiness and I'm told that I can't wear makeup or I can't wear pants, but I don't see in the Bible that Jesus wore pants, and I hear that, something's not adding up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like even like I said earlier, like we see like Jesus is made to be a lot of in Hollywood Caucasian, but I look on the map and it says Nazareth. And I look at the region, I look at stories in the Bible about, you know,
people just type Nazarene on Google.
Yeah.
You see a bunch of brown people.
I see like in like Egypt and Ethiopia, like,
yeah.
But I'm seeing this, like something's not adding up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm studying the Bible for myself. Like I'm seeing the true interpretation of like Hebrew and Greek words aren't meant to scare us. It's meant to reveal what Jesus really is saying through his word. And I'm really seeing the true interpretation of the text, not for my religious pride and my religious rhetoric, but I really understand like what righteousness means, like right standing. So now right standing isn't based upon if I take communion on first Sunday or if I wear all white. Pentecost isn't based upon if I wear all white. Pentecost is based upon the gift of the Holy Spirit that was given freely for those who stayed in position in that place in the upper room. But like, it was a gift. Right. Like my right standing was a gift. Like, so if I'm told that if you live right, then you'll see heaven, or if you live right, then you'll keep your salvation. You know what I'm saying? Like there's something, there's disconnects, and that's why I would challenge people to really study to see who Jesus is for yourself. Because once you know who he is for yourself, and you've seen both sides, it's like Paul. Like he was Saul, man. Like he knew the law backwards and forward. A Hebrew of Hebrews, like a Pharisee if there ever was a Pharisee. And that's why he could preach grace so well, because he knew the law. And maybe sometimes you just need to become blind to what you knew before to be able to see what God really wants you to see. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you just need that Damascus Road experience, bro. Yeah. And everybody has theirs differently. But it's necessary, man. It's necessary.
He preached the whole word, y'all. That was a whole word. I hope y'all get all of that. That was a whole word.
Man, this conversation blessed me, bro. Like, for real. Like, it helped uncover some stuff and shed some light even for myself, which I didn't think like was gonna happen, man. This is like therapeutic. You know what I'm saying? Like, legit, man.
Love hearing that.
Yeah.
I love hearing that.
Yeah, this is good.
I appreciate that for sure. And I think this is gonna bless a lot of people. Continue like on this road as I'm continuing trying to find different millennials, just talking about that experience. Yeah. Talk about and just like unpack those things and just like, learn from those things. So I appreciate you coming on here.
Oh yeah, man. No doubt, bro. Transparency brings healing, bro. And I think once you uncover what we've been hiding for so long as PKs, like people can really get the healing that they need. So I definitely hope this helps, man.
So I want you to shout out your social media for me, your website, church info, all that good stuff.
Cool, man. So social media, again, my name is Austin Smith. My Instagram handle is Austin X Gerard. That's Gerard. That's the biggest thing that I'm on right now. I got Facebook, of course, Austin G. Smith. Website is www.austingerard.com. So that has all my graphic design information on there, but then also has any messages that I've taught. Because like I said, I'm a teacher of the gospel as well. What else? Me and my wife have a YouTube channel. It's called Growing in Love. We really need to get back on our game. But
now this pushes you too, because this will be out Friday.
Right. So like
not this Friday. But
we we have a YouTube channel called Growing in Love the Smiths. And that's pretty much the main stuff, man. Oh, the church, Movement Rock Hill. So it's On Instagram, it's MVMT Rock Hill. I think Facebook is Movement Rock Hill. So we're launching in August. So definitely get ready for that. Got some exciting stuff coming up. And
yeah, if you're in the Rock Hill area, come check them out for sure.
Yeah. Like we'll be live in August. For right now, we're starting Bible studies online. So definitely check my page or just check the pages to get information for that. But we'd love for you to join us virtually. And then as we get ready for in person, we'd love for you to come. It's a place where family is found, where the truth transformed, and where purpose is revealed. So that's who we are, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you coming on, man.
No doubt, bro.
Another episode about to. I'm about to miss that. You like, come on, Drew. Come on, Drew. Nah. I appreciate you guys for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you love this episode, please share it and get it out to as many people as possible. My name is Drew Muzan. This was Austin Smith. This was another episode of the Walk With You podcast. Peace out.
Yes, sir.